Now, a couple weeks back, American Airlines made headlines by announcing a new policy allowing Black Lives Matter pins to be worn with uniforms. This policy was not altogether met with celebration. In fact, it was really offensive to many of American Airlines employees that work on flight crews and things like that. Let's take a quick look at this article from the New York Post. American Airlines policy allowing Black Lives Matter pins faces backlash from workers. There's a pandemonium brewing at American Airlines. Top brass at the nation's largest commercial jet carrier are facing turbulence from within after it announced that flight attendants are now allowed to wear Black Lives Matter's pins on their uniform while on duty. The move has irked some of Americans' white New York staffers, including those who have spouses or relatives who are cops, because they consider the Black Lives Matter movement divisive and anti-police, saying it promotes or condones violence. And so I'm going to link this article in the description below. You can take a look at the full thing if you want. But the reason I reference it is that apparently Delta Airlines has not gotten the memo that they should not be wading into this nonsense. You know, about, maybe it was almost 2 months ago now. I don't know. When we did the walkaway rally in Los Angeles, I actually flew Delta for the last time, and I've been flying American ever since simply because they're still out of my home airport. But I flew Delta to Los Angeles specifically because I knew the flight from Boston would be a direct flight. I wouldn't have a layover, all that stuff. And when I was boarding my flight or checking in for my flight, I actually overheard a Delta Airlines crew member screaming about white privilege. And this was at 6:30 in the morning. And frankly, I wanted none of it at 6:30 in the morning. So I issued a tweet saying, Delta, why are your employees screaming about white privilege while in uniform at 6 a.m. in the morning? I didn't really expect Delta to do anything. But what happened is a couple of the airline's managers actually came to my gate and found me before I got on the plane to sincerely apologize for their employees screaming about white privilege early in the morning. And so I kind of thought Delta was one of the airlines that might understand that perhaps they shouldn't go woke and get broke. But nah, Delta did not learn their lesson. I have undercover images from the wife of a Delta employee that I'm going to show you in this video to prove that Delta Airlines has not learned their lesson, not from American, not from any other company that gets woke and goes broke. Because right here we have it, Black Lives Matter official Delta Airlines pin that employees can wear on their uniforms, apparently starting a couple days ago. And I've got some other stuff to go through here too about different trainings that flight attendants are having to undergo, and even an internal memo from the CEO of Delta Airlines. And I'm going to walk you through all of it. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, folks, I am trying to grow my channel and YouTube has been screwing with me lately. Actually been screwing with me for about a month, since August 26th. I know the exact date because I can tell clearly in the analytics exactly when it started. They're doing things like unsubscribing people from my account. They're doing things like suppressing my content to only reach subscribers. This is not that nanny, child-proofing thing that people have been talking about. It's not that. At least I haven't received any notifications that it's that. So I think that this is something else that started about a month ago. How you can help me out is by sticking it to YouTube and doing things like subscribing, turning on notifications, leaving a comment, trying to give it a thumbs up, share the video out. Listen, I'm not going to stop making content. Apparently YouTube doesn't really want you to see it, but we can stick it to them and remind them that you will be the people who decide what ideas you can consider, not little freaking millennials in Silicon Valley who think they know better than you. All right, let's talk about what Delta is doing. This is a photo of the Black Lives Matter pin that they have specifically created with the Delta logo that they are issuing to their employees. And just for good measure, I also have a photo here of what is the actual Delta policy for wearing different pins and things. So what this is meant to show is that what if an employee decided, hey, you want to have your employees wear Black Lives Matter pins? Cool. Maybe I want to wear a Blue Lives Matter pin instead. Well, no. According to Delta's own policy, that is not allowed because it would be too controversial. But Delta has officially created these Black Lives Matters pins. So we know which side they are coming down on. They are coming down on the side of people that are rioting across this country for the past 3 flippin' months. And this is what Delta now supports. But that's not all. I also got some other stuff here. Here is a training for their flight attendants. This is like just a little overview of what's in this training that they actually had to undergo. By completing this chapter, I will begin my personal journey to acknowledge and disrupt my biases by replacing micro inequities with micro affirmations. I've never even heard the term micro inequities, but clearly that's something that's about to happen. I will also recognize when my behaviors are less than inclusive or complicit with exclusion, and how I can consciously include and respect others who are different than me. You know where you might want to start with your inclusion, Delta? You might want to start by having something more inclusive than a Black Lives Matter pin, when Black Lives Matter is literally run by trained Marxists. There's videos admitting that they are trained Marxists. Like, so this is there are many more inclusive things that you can be doing than giving your employees this pin to wear. I'm sure that your employees who are married to police officers might not feel that that Black Lives Matter pin is so inclusive, and maybe you could learn from your own training and stop with the micro inequities against your employees who have friends or family members who are police officers, and allow them maybe to wear a Blue Lives Matter pin, or better yet, don't issue the damn pin at all. I don't know why this is so hard. Increase awareness of my reactions to differences and how those reactions impact others' behavior and interactions with others, and create a safe environment for my customers, community, and colleagues by practicing inclusive behaviors. And again, Black Lives Matter is not inclusive. It is not inclusive. We are not talking about the saying here saying that Black people matter too. Yes, no one argues with this saying. There are so few, like, okay, I won't say no one, because of course there are actually like still exist real live like KKK members. They might argue with this, but guess what? The KKK is so small, it is pretty much inconsequential in this country, and it certainly has no political force. And even on the right speaks out against that crap all the time. And then when we have actual white nationalists like Richard Spencer. Who is Richard Spencer endorsing for president? Joe Biden. White nationalists, people who would oppose the saying Black Lives Matter, support Joe Biden for president, because the platform that Black Lives Matter and people like them, these social justice, I don't like social justice, whatever, they want segregation. They want the same thing. They want everyone to live separately. They are completely aligned in those ideologies. This is not inclusive. This is fundamentally exclusive. But Delta CEO Ed Bastian doesn't see it that way, and he issued the following internal memorandum back in August to his employees. Subject line: taking action. Amid the global reckoning over historic racial inequities and injustice, we have been listening, learning, and taking steps towards becoming an anti-racist, anti-discrimination organization. Delta, for the record, I am a platinum medallion member. I flew you exclusively all last year. I was so loyal to your airline, and now you're doing this crap. This is fundamentally antithetical to every single thing I believe. I mean, I guess maybe, like, thank God for small favors. They aren't even flying out of my home airport anymore. I'll still have my platinum status all next year, I guess. But, like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, because all airlines suck now. And Delta is at the top of the suck list, right next to American. These steps have included a series of virtual town halls on racial justice, updated equal opportunity and social media guidelines, a new library of anti-racism resources on DeltaNet, and our advocacy for the Georgia hate crimes legislation and police reform in Minnesota. So Delta is literally advocating for the abolition of the police, which is exactly what is happening in Minnesota. Way to go, Delta. Yeah, okay. I wonder what would happen in Atlanta when the riots come and attack your precious planes or your corporate offices. I wonder how much you'd be in favor of police reform then. Let's keep going. We've also taken a hard look at our own record on diversity. People of color currently represent 43% of Delta's current employees, which you would think is pretty good. 35% of our overall leaders, 18% of our top 100 officers, but our Black colleagues represent 21% of our employee base, 16% of overall leaders, and 7% of our top 100 officers. Oh, so they've distinguished between Black and people of color. I see. This is not a picture of equity, nor is it reflective of the world we serve. I mean, actually, it is, because if Black colleagues represent 21% of your overall employee base, isn't that larger than the percentage of Black people in the greater population by a pretty significant degree? That actually does represent a picture of equity. Is it perfect? No. Few things are. I mean, maybe the 7% of top 100 officers could be increased, but everything else looks pretty proportional to the representation of Black people in our larger population. As your leader, I take ownership of that performance and am committed to correcting our course as we become more just, equal, and anti-racist. So what is the goal, Ed? What do you want the percentages to be? What is the goal that you were shooting for? What is the target? You're a CEO. You should be able to answer that question. Otherwise, this is just all lip service to try to make people feel better. This effort will require intentionality from every team member of the executive team and determination at every level of the company. Every Delta leader must take personal vested ownership in solving for the burdens Black and brown communities have been carrying for too long. Our progress will be measured, and we will be accountable for achieving these goals. While it is important to continue listening and learning, now is also the time to step up and take strong action. Some of these steps have already begun. Some will be accomplished in the short term, and some will be realized over the long-term future. We will focus on the following areas: rebuilding Delta to reflect our world, increasing the percentage of Black leaders to better reflect the total population of our employee base. So it's not enough. Hang on. Listen, it is not enough to just have a oversampling of Black employees as part of your overall employee base. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I guess I have no issue with specific programs designed to develop the leadership potential of different groups of employees, provide mentoring opportunities, stuff like that. But again, it seems like Delta's doing pretty effing good. This is something to celebrate. This is not something that we should be saying, oh, we suck and we should do better. This is a good picture right here. This is not bad. Could you always do better? Sure, I guess. But this is not a place of disadvantage. Building stronger team diversity, representation, and inclusion metrics into leadership performance and review targets. So you're specifically going to evaluate people on whether or not they hire people of color. Congratulations. You just implemented a racist policy in your organization. And no one ever believes me when I tell people this is happening, because I've talked to executives, I've talked to HR people from all over the country, and I've heard over and over and over again, Carlin, our company right now just isn't hiring white people. That is fundamentally racist, folks. That's racist. Now, do I think that this is going to be a big long-term problem? Honestly, probably not, because at the end of the day, they're going to need qualified employees, and that's going to actually trump probably everything else that is going on. But is it happening? It is absolutely happening, and he's actually saying it here. Building stronger team diversity, representation, and inclusion metrics into leadership performance reviews and targets. They are reviewing people on the color of the skin that people are hiring. That is literally part of the performance review now at Delta. Removing qualification barriers for roles that do not quite require college degrees, allowing equal consideration for experience or certificates, which are more equitably accessible. Now, I actually think that that's a good point. I actually think that most roles in most organizations don't require a college degree. I mean, you're basically getting coffee for people and filing and stuff like that. So I completely agree with that, and I think that that actually helps everyone that didn't go to college. Expanding our recruiting efforts to include more historically Black colleges and universities, while requiring all schools where we recruit to have strong diversity and inclusion plans. All right, I have no problem with them having more recruiting at HBCUs. I think that only provides more opportunity to highly qualified people. There's nothing wrong with that. Joining forces with coalitions like the 1 Million Jobs Initiative and working alongside other employers to provide 1 million good jobs over the next 10 years. I have no issue with that. Strengthening our corporate internship, MBA, and pipeline development program to increase opportunities for future Black professionals. Why are you only focusing in on Black people, Delta? Because this is one of the challenges I've heard to crap like this over and over and over again from Hispanic and Latino professionals who are like, we're basically being ignored. All the attention is on black people. Like, you actually say black and brown people in this memo somewhere, don't you? Like, vested ownership in solving for the burdens of black and brown communities. And here you've just focused on opportunities for future black professionals. What about the brown professionals? Don't they deserve your consideration too? Addressing inequity. Helping to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to exercise their right to vote, including supporting the Metro Atlanta Chambers to attract new poll workers and leveraging our new alumni. I don't know what that is. Ensuring Delta's PAC giving evaluates candidates' ethics and commitment to working towards. Okay, so Delta just said that they're only going to give political donations to people who adhere to a Marxist ideology. All right, Delta. Actively seeking and supporting national and state legislation that fights discrimination and advocates for just and equal treatment. Creating more opportunities for underrepresented groups. Establishing new partnerships with organizations driving systemic change, primarily in the areas of social injustice, economic empowerment, and wealth development. So then Delta would probably really be a fan of what President Trump is doing with creating more opportunity zones. I would think, except that they've already just said in the previous paragraph that they're only giving money to candidates who work towards racial equity in the way that they're specifically defining it here. Continue partnering with Operation Hope to uplift underrepresented communities by supporting business literacy and coaching to equip them with the financial knowledge and tools to create a secure future. I have no issue with that. Ongoing advocacy for education, including our partnership with Atlantic Public Schools focused on improving literacy and essential reading skills. Hey, man, you got no beef with me on there. Like, anything that you can do to improve the schools, Delta, I'll throw you a bone here. I know I'm ripping you a new one on this, but I'll throw you a bone. Anything that you can do to improve the schools and the education for children that does not involve teaching them critical race theory, you will have my vote of support. I have no issue with that at all. Stepping up inclusion training at every level of the company, revamping our inclusion training strategy to be available in alternate and ongoing virtual forms for all leaders and employees. I'm just saying that I would love to see a copy of Delta's inclusion training. I'm just saying I'd love to see it. That's all. Contact information is below. That's all. Okay. Supporting our black business partners, not brown business partners, just the black ones. That's it. Generating wealth in the black community by further diversifying our supply chain and doubling our spending with black-owned businesses by 2025. Why aren't you doubling spending with the brown businesses, Delta? While seeking diverse business partners for Delta's COVID-19 recovery strategy. Requiring each bidding and request for proposal process for new partnerships to include participation from minority-owned businesses while introducing micro-development programs to identify and grow diverse businesses in underrepresented areas of our supply chain and evaluating every Delta contract to ensure suppliers are held accountable for anti-racist policies within their organization. Well, Delta's going to have a problem there because President Donald Trump just forbid the use of critical race training, critical race theory, which is another word for anti-racist training in all federal contractors. So, if Delta is requiring that every single Delta contract ensures suppliers are held accountable for anti-racist policies within their organizations, they are not going to be working with anyone that wants to maintain their government contracts. Law of unintended consequences, Delta. I know you wrote this memo in August. You probably didn't think the president was going to ban it in all government contractors, but he did. Thank you, Trump. This list is just the beginning. In fact, with your continued input, it will grow in the months and years ahead. A famous quote by the often cited late Representative John Lewis comes to mind: if not us, then who? If not now, then when? It is my personal responsibility to leverage my influence and privilege as your CEO to be your strongest advocate for equity and justice. I'll be holding each leader accountable for their own performance, and all Delta people are expected to live by our shared values outlined in the rules of the road on and off the clock. So Delta has just informed all of its employees that they're going to be policing their behavior off the clock. What if you catch one of your employees at a Trump rally, Delta? Are they abiding by your values? Are your employees allowed to support Donald Trump? Because you've actually said in this memo that you're not going to be supporting anyone that that doesn't live up to these anti-racist nonsense. And Donald Trump obviously has banned anti-racism training in the federal government and in all federal contractors. So your employees allowed to support Donald Trump? I think that's a very fair question. This commitment is important, but it won't mean anything until it has an impact on all aspects of our personal and professional lives. At our airports, in our break rooms and offices, on the ramp, in our hangars, on our planes, in our cities and neighborhoods, schools and homes. We'll talk in more detail about our action plan on Wednesday during a town hall, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for trusting me with this responsibility and for the role that each of you plays in bringing our values to life. In this time of crisis, I have never been more proud to be a part of the Delta family. So, listen, man, I've always been a big supporter of Delta. I like Delta treated me well as a customer. I don't know. We're going to have to see what they do. Right now, I'm pretty committed to flying American, even though American sucks just as bad as Delta does. It's simply a matter of, like, who's flying out of my home airport in Manchester, New Hampshire. I'm traveling a lot. I don't want to have to drive an hour back and forth to Boston. And now, guess what, Delta? I was actually feeling a little guilty about breaking up with you. I'm going to be honest. I was like, oh, like I can basically transfer my platinum status to American Airlines. So I have platinum status on there now too. So it's like not so bad, but I was feeling bad. I was like, I love Delta. Delta's always treating me well. American sucks. And now reading this nonsense that apparently my values do not align with yours, Delta, so I think you've given me a free pass in terms of not patronizing your services until you reverse some of these nonsense decisions, and definitely until you reverse this, because I'm not looking at this nonsense. Like, I pay you to fly me from point A to point B. That is your job. That is the only thing I care about you doing. I do not care about any business that I patronize being an advocate for whatever social justice nonsense they're doing in any given moment to avoid a social media mob from attacking them. I don't care. This is stupid. This is a stupid decision, Ed. And I think that you really are going to probably learn the lesson. Get woke, go broke. All right, guys, that's all I got for right now. I'll see you soon.